You assume you exist as a clear, separate individual. You speak, decide, remember, and say I without hesitation. This certainty feels basic, almost unquestionable. Yet when you examine it closely, the idea of a fixed self becomes less stable. Each definition of who you are depends on thoughts, roles, and changing conditions. Ibn Arabi began precisely here. He questioned whether the I you defend has existence of its own, or whether it is only a way existence appears to itself. His teaching of Wahdat al-Wujud, the unity of being, does not begin with belief, but with doubt. It asks whether existence belongs to individuals at all, or whether individuality is something that appears within existence. If existence is one, where exactly does your separateness begin? In ordinary reasoning, the world appears divided. There are many people, many objects, many causes, many intentions. This multiplicity seems obvious. Ibn Arabi did not deny this experience, but he questioned its meaning. If existence itself is real, can it truly be broken into parts? Or does the mind simply organize experience into multiples for practical understanding? You rely on distinctions to think and function, yet those distinctions may not describe existence itself. Ibn Arabi treated this as a logical problem, not a mystical one. If many things exist, do they each possess existence independently? Or do they all point back to a single source that alone truly is? Is multiplicity a fact of being, or a feature of thought? Before reaching any conclusion, Ibn Arabi made a careful distinction. He separated existence from things that exist. Objects, persons, and events are present, but presence alone does not equal independent existence. Existence, in his view, is not a property added to things. It is not something that belongs to them. Rather, things appear within existence. This assumption changes the entire discussion. If existence is one and undivided, then what we call entities cannot be equal to it. They depend on it completely. At this point, Ibn Arabi asks a difficult question. Can anything other than existence itself be said to be real in an absolute sense? Wahdat al-Wujud does not claim that the world is an illusion or that distinctions are meaningless. Ibn Arabi acknowledged forms, differences, and relationships. What he denied was independent existence. Nothing exists by itself. Everything that appears does so through dependence on the real. This position avoids exaggeration. It neither erases the world nor absolutizes it. You continue to experience difference, causality, and identity, but you no longer treat them as self-subsisting. The question then shifts. If things are present but not independent, what kind of reality do they have? Are they false, or are they real in a relative way? And what does relative truly mean? Ibn Arabi referred to God as al-Haq, the real. This term is precise. It does not describe a distant ruler or an external cause. It names that which exists by itself and depends on nothing else. Everything other than the real borrows existence. This makes the discussion ontological rather than emotional or theological. God is not one being among others. God is existence itself. When you hear this, a tension arises. If God is existence, then the world is not outside God, yet it is not identical in status either. Does understanding God as existence change how you think about divinity? And does it also change how you think about yourself? According to Ibn Arabi, human error does not come from total ignorance. It comes from partial recognition. You recognize forms, patterns, and identities, but you stop there. You treat what is dependent as if it were independent. This habit is reinforced by language and thought. You say this exists, and assume existence belongs to the thing itself. True knowledge, in this framework, does not add information. It removes a mistake. It reveals dependence where autonomy was assumed. This raises an unsettling possibility. If knowledge is a correction rather than an acquisition, then learning may require unlearning. Are you prepared to question what you take for granted about reality? Now the question turns directly toward you. You experience yourself as a center of action and decision. Ibn Arabi did not deny this experience. He questioned its interpretation. The self you call I functions, chooses, and responds, but it does not exist independently. It is a form through which existence appears. This does not eliminate individuality, but it relocates it. You are not a separate source of being. You are a particular mode in which being is expressed. This realization can feel destabilizing, yet it is also clarifying. If the self is not absolute, then what exactly are you defending when you defend the ego? And what happens when that defense relaxes? A common objection arises here. If existence is one, what happens to freedom and responsibility? Ibn Arabi did not deny ethical accountability. Actions still occur within forms and relationships. Choices still have consequences. What changes is the assumption of absolute authorship. You act, but you do not act as an isolated cause. Agency exists, but it is situated. Responsibility remains meaningful at the level where actions unfold. The paradox remains unresolved on purpose. How can responsibility exist without independent existence? Ibn Arabi does not offer a simple formula. Instead, he invites careful reflection. Can responsibility be real without being absolute? And is that distinction enough? Many scholars feared that Wahdat al-Wujud erased boundaries that protected belief and law. If creation and creator are not absolutely separate, confusion seems inevitable. Ibn Arabi's language was subtle, and subtlety invites misunderstanding. He did not claim identity between God and the world, but dependence. Critics often missed this distinction. The controversy itself reveals something important. Complex ideas resist simple judgment. Difficulty does not always signal danger. Sometimes it signals depth. Wahdat al-Wujud demands careful reasoning and disciplined thought. The question remains open. When an idea feels threatening, is it because it is false, or because it challenges assumptions that feel secure? Wahdat al-Wujud cannot be reduced to a slogan. It is not a claim you accept once and move on from. Ibn Arabi treated it as a continuous discipline of understanding. Each situation invites the same question. Am I treating something dependent as if it were independent? The answer is rarely final. This prevents dogmatism. Unity of existence does not flatten differences. It contextualizes them. Forms still matter. Distinctions still function. What disappears is the illusion of self-sufficiency. Understanding, here, is never complete. It is renewed through attention and correction. Is it possible that clarity is not a destination, but a repeated act of recognition? At the end of this inquiry, nothing dramatic needs to happen. The world does not vanish. You do not lose your name, your role, or your responsibilities. What changes is how firmly you hold them. Ibn Arabi's insight allows distinctions to remain without granting them absolute status. Existence stands prior to every form you recognize. You no longer need to deny the many in order to understand the one. You simply stop confusing appearance with independence. This is not a conclusion that demands agreement. It invites quiet consideration. If existence alone truly is, then individuality is not eliminated, but understood differently. With this recognition, the original question returns. Who are you, if existence was never yours to own?